have to be careful that if we do see a surge as a result of that, that we're flexible enough to reinstitute the kinds of interventions that could be necessary to stop an additional surge.
That could mean a return of mandatory masking, especially in areas of high transmission.
Hello, everyone. My name is Swamp. And it seems that more and more people every day are finally starting to wake up to all of these COVID lies that we were told. Things that were considered just a few months ago to be conspiracy theories are now proven to be fact, though the media doesn't want to exactly admit it. More and more people are actually waking up to this. Do COVID precautions work? Yes, but they haven't made a big difference. Okay, just can't admit when you're wrong, right? This sounds like having an argument with your girlfriend or something. Why more and more experts say lockdown didn't prevent people dying of COVID and call it a monumental mistake on a global scale. Now that's better. I appreciate that one. Thank you. Now let's see what Vox has to say. Are we done with face masks? And this was on March 17th, 2022. So this is brand new. I wonder if they have caught up with this new information. Spoiler alert, they're just as stupid as they always are.
Masking up is one of the first things we did to slow the spread of COVID-19. And it worked.
I'm just gonna throw this in real quick. COVID-19 may be linked to spontaneous psychosis. Researchers are trying to figure out why.
Study after study has shown that when we implemented and followed mask mandates, cases fell.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Florida's Surgeon General.
So, unfortunately, we have a country right now where most people, including, this is across the political spectrum, think that these things are saving lives. So, in medicine, in science, we have something called levels of evidence, okay? And we've got our high-level evidence and lower levels of evidence. And our highest level of evidence are clinical trials. Ask them, what did the two randomized clinical trials that we've done during the pandemic, what did they show? One found nothing, zero benefit. The other found a small benefit, like a tiny benefit that's a little bit methodologically shaky. Lower evidence is what the CDC likes to tout. Shaky studies, shaky methods, finding 80% reductions in infection. Give me a break, come on. Nothing that we're seeing in this country justifies that kind of conclusion.
But now, those mandates are being lifted, and guidance from public health experts is changing. For many of us, it feels like we're headed towards a new phase in the pandemic. But it's not over. Not yet.
Oh, it's over. It's been over before it even started. Trying to solve a COVID mystery, Africa's low death rates. The coronavirus was expected to devastate the continent, but higher income and better prepared countries appear to have fared far worse. A hidden immune feature may have spared unvaccinated people from COVID-19 infections. It's an antidote in the immune system. See, that was a typo. The antidote is the immune system, is I think what they meant to put there. My point being that it's time to admit that we were wrong. We were hoodwinked. Well, at least you were. But some people were, and we have got to get over this. Stop clinging to the COVID narrative like it's a blanket and you're Linus. Just stop.
So, as we weather the third year with COVID-19, what do we do with the mask?
What do we do with the masks? You crack open a beer and you set those bastards on fire.
So the ideal risk mitigation is to have everyone wearing masks.
But of course, we're not going to wear masks all the time for the rest of our lives. Moving forward,
it will be left more to individuals in most settings to decide whether they feel like they're at higher risk or it's a higher risk setting where they want to wear a mask.
They always say this as if it's a choice, but we all know in practice it never is. It's up to the individual to decide whether or not they should. And you go, okay, well, I'm not going to. And they say, well, no. No. Put on the mask. Well, I thought it was my choice. Yeah, if you choose to do it, it is your choice. Go ahead, do it. Well, I don't want to.
Fortunately, evidence shows that masks still offer protection even if you're the only person wearing one.
Ah, yes, just like this guy. Today I went to Home Depot and wore another respirator. The 2 employees who helped me cut a blind thanked me for wearing this mask and protecting them. COVID is not over. Thanked you for protecting them? And then everyone clapped.
Especially N95 or KN95 types, which have proven to be exceptionally effective.
I'm pretty sure the CDC doesn't even claim that cloth masks are 56% effective anymore. Whatever that means.
Shaky studies, shaky methods, finding 80% reductions in infection. Give me a break,
This applies even if you're vaccinated and boosted. Layering your protection can reduce your chance of a breakthrough infection.
What I would hope is that people would view masks as a wonderful, inexpensive medical intervention.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're great medical intervention, even if you're vaccinated, because really, we have no idea what the hell is going on. CDC says it accidentally inflated children's COVID death numbers in coding logic error. Wrong all along. COVID death figures may have been completely wrong due to poor statistics. British scientist says flawed PCR tests mistook common colds and the flu for COVID-19. Did flawed PCR tests convince us COVID was worse than it really was? While the chaotic way deaths were recorded in the pandemic could mean thousands were wrongly blamed on COVID. So given this new information, I would agree. Everyone should get 4 shots and always wear a mask. Actually, wear a respirator with a mask over it. It's the only way to be safe, because we really have no idea what's happening. It just makes common sense.
So when you're deciding whether or not to mask up, consider the weather. Not the real weather, pandemic weather.
Why did you do that? Why? Why?
Which can rapidly change from week to week. If it's looking bad, you might want to bring an umbrella, as in, wear a mask.
Listen, I'm a man. I don't even use an umbrella when it rains. I just take it. You better believe that's how I'm going to treat COVID. No mask. I'm just an absolute madman.
We're in an evolving situation. We have been since the beginning of 2020, but there are some principles we can follow here.
Starting with assessing the case rates or hospitalizations around the community.
Assess the case rates? COVID death figures may have been completely wrong due to poor statistics. Do some research, Vox.
So looking at cases per 100,000, you really want it to be at least under 10 per 100,000.
I am not a very smart man, and I don't fully understand graphs and numbers and figures. But did that just say you want it to be around 10 per 100,000? Or 10 or lower? What? This is what we're talking about here? 10 people? What? And you're freaking out about this. I don't... What? Are you actually saying that if you saw data that said there was more than 10 per 100,000, you would be masking up again? Fine.
Ideally in single digits, and not just for one day, but you could look at something like the 7 or 14-day average for an area.
Luckily, you can find that data on a variety of websites, including the CDC, New York Times, Johns Hopkins.
Wait, even the CDC? Are you telling me the same CDC that says it accidentally inflated children's COVID death numbers and coding logic error? And that's just one thing that they've admitted. No, they're great.
Or even simply by searching on Google. These numbers will change depending on the location, and also over time. There's some evidence that COVID could eventually become seasonal like the flu, which means cases may drop in the spring or summer, only to spike again in the fall and winter.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but Why is it all of a sudden that people are acting like they've been consistently getting a flu shot every year for their entire life? I do not know anybody who's ever done that. Usually when I hear about it, it's like someone with like a little kid, they take them to get it at Walgreens or something. Show me an adult human being that has been getting a flu shot every single year. No. And if this is what this is going to be like, which it is, just stop. Just stop. The virtue signaling is over. Go home.
Next, it's important to consider the environment. Being outside is a really good start.
We're heading into spring, and I think there will be less tendency to be indoors in crowded spaces, poorly ventilated spaces, for example. So that also helps with reduction of transmission.
Basically, now we're just talking about things that were common practice and common knowledge before COVID-19 being talked about as if this is somehow groundbreaking information. Isn't this, like, didn't we all know this before COVID broke everyone's brain?
But if you're indoors, you should take a few things into consideration.
Ventilation and the number of people, the size of the space, and then the times that you spend in that space. Those are the main factors.
A packed indoor concert, for example, is going to be higher risk than going to a grocery store where people are more spaced out.
This is stuff that I learned in like 3rd grade. What are the... This is somehow new information. But of course, we all know this doesn't apply to celebrities because they can go to concerts and go to events without masks and they'll be just fine. And thank God for that, because if we're not protecting the celebrities, what's the point of this?
And events or locations that are checking vaccination status or requiring a negative test are an even lower risk. But even then, you should consider one other factor: yourself.
Doesn't this sound like all the stuff that was coming out at the beginning of 2020? They made this like a week ago. What? I don't understand this. Who needs this? Who's even looking for this? You know, besides people like me who just make fun of it.
And that includes assessing your own risk of severe disease and hospitalization and possibly even death. And that has to do, of course, with your underlying medical conditions, whether or not you're immunosuppressed, whether or not you've been vaccinated and boosted.
Even if you yourself are low risk, you should also consider how dangerous an infection would be for the people closest to you.
There, you see, they did it again, where they start off as saying that, like, you know, consider yourself. Consider what you know. What would best be your needs? What would best meet your needs to be safe? But we don't actually care about that. We want you to protect everybody else. So it's your personal choice as long as you do it. Get out of here.
We've learned a lot since the beginning of the pandemic, and you've heard it 1,000 times. We're all in this together.
Hang on, I thought you cared about other people, because hearing that gives me PTSD. I get triggered now because of that. If I have to see one more celebrity standing on a yacht telling me how we're all in this together, I'm gonna lose it.
Your actions and decisions will continue to affect those around you.
If you are in one of those lower risk categories and don't have to wear a mask in all those settings, understand that if the risk rises again, you might need to.
We're not trying to stop every runny nose in the country. We're really trying to prevent people from going to the hospital, and we're trying to prevent our healthcare system from falling apart.
In the meantime, be mindful and show some compassion for other people who may be masking up while you're not. Because your cloudy day may be someone else's hurricane.
No, screw you, screw your compassion, and screw your hurricane level of COVID risk. It's over. Go home. I feel like Ferris Bueller right now. The movie's over. Go home.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Anyway, my name is Swamp. Like the video, hit subscribe, leave a comment, hit the bell for notifications. Let me know how an entire family of ducks down the street from you died of COVID-19, so this is incredibly insensitive for me to say, and I'm basically the worst person ever. Yeah, that'd be great. See you next time.